I've been overthinking my creativity. Somehow I lost the flow. You know, that place where you're just creating without thinking and things are coming naturally and there's little effort on your part because you are in the flow. I think I've lost that a little bit. And I think part of that is just not creating certain types of content as frequently as I was before. And sometimes when you step away for a little bit, you lose the flow. So I've been overthinking about what I want to share, what I want to talk about, what I want to do. And all of this overthinking has led me to forget the goal of creativity. So even in the midst of all of this, I've still been reading. And one of the books that I've been reading, mostly at night before bed, has been Rick Rubin's The Creative Act, A Way of Being. I'm halfway through the book, and there's been a lot of helpful ideas that I've been reading and resonating with as I've been reading Rubin's work. And if you're unfamiliar with Rick Rubin is a big time producer. He's made music with Kanye West and many others. But he has this book where it's basically his philosophy of creativity. And he's been talking a lot about creativity recently. He's made a podcast. I'm sure it's been out for a while, but I saw an interview with Andre 3000 a couple years ago, and that was just really beautiful. And I knew that his book would be just as beautiful. But there's some words in this book that I want to just read, and I'm hoping that some of these words will be beneficial to you, like they will be beneficial to me, reading and hearing again as I try to think about my creative endeavors. The first quote is on page 23, where Rick Rubin says, "The ability to look deeply is the root of creativity, to see past the ordinary and mundane, and to get what might otherwise be invisible." Maybe part of what I'm feeling, being out of the flow, I've kind of lost my sight a little bit. I lost my ability to see past the ordinary and the mundane. Does that make sense? I think when I'm in the flow of creativity, everything is majestic, everything is enchanted, everything is beautiful and mysterious. And I see this especially when I'm outside in nature. I think I can really be in touch with the beauty beyond the mundane and the ordinary because I can never just see a tree as a tree. When I see a tree, I see more than just a tree. When I see blue skies, I see more than just blue skies. When I see sunshine, I see more than just sunshine. It's just a lot easier for me to see past the mundane and the ordinary when I'm outside. But I don't know, maybe I've been inside too much and that has gotten me out of the rhythm and the flow and has distorted my vision a little bit. I think to be creative, you have to have the eyes to see, to notice beauty, to notice what others may not notice. I think this is what sets the artist apart from the one that is not identifying as an artist. On page 135, Rick Rubin talks about good habits, and he says that good habits create good art. I'm so I'm so into routine and rhythms. I am. And I think that's another part of what I'm feeling. I've been traveling a lot recently, and I'm going to be doing even more traveling here in a little bit. And when you're traveling, you don't have your regular rhythms and routines, and maybe even good habits. And I think good habits have been the foundation of the good art that I've created. And rhythms and routines, something like reading every day. Like I'm so inspired by reading. When I read some words and I see some words and see some ideas that really speak to me, I'm inspired to move. And I don't know if I've been as inspired to move recently. And I'm still inspired. Don't get me wrong. I'm still enjoying life and happy to be existing. But I don't know if I'm as inspired recently to move. And I think that's affected my creative work. On page 177, Rick Rubin shares what I believe to be the goal of creativity. And this is something that I'm reminding myself of right now as I'm making this video. On page 177, he says, the goal of art isn't to attain perfection. The goal is to share who we are and how we see the world. This is the gift we get to offer the world when we share our art. We're sharing a part of us. We're sharing something that we've noticed, something that we see, something that we hear, something that we find beauty or compelling or challenging, something that first and always resonates with us first. It's not perfection. Perfection is not the goal. The goal was to be touched by something, to be moved by something, and be moved enough to share it with someone else with the hope that they will be moved as well. And they don't have to be moved in the same way, but maybe they're moved to do something else or to continue a conversation or to go on a rabbit trail. You know what I mean? I mean, there's so much that can happen from us sharing what we believe is beautiful. And this is what we're doing with creative work. We're participating, we are noticing, we are opening ourselves, and then sharing. Which leads me to my last quotes. On page 197 of The Creative Act, Rick Rubin says, avoid overthinking. And as I read that, I'm like, I mean, anyone can just say avoid overthinking, but how the heck do you do that? And I think Rick Rubin gives a lot of ideas about how to do that. And I think one way to do that is to address how you're seeing. Go outside, go in nature. For me, that's a different starting place for me to think about the creative work or the creative journey is much different and much more impactful for me than being inside. Um, um, Nature is more compelling to me than these structures that we built. And some of these structures are beautiful and they're helpful and they're nice and they're comforting, but they have nothing on nature. So for me, maybe it could be nature, or it can just be just cutting on the camera, cutting on the audio recorder, and just seeing what happens, and just trusting that what comes out might be beneficial to you and to someone else, or just creating even when you don't feel like creating until maybe something comes as you do what you want to do, but maybe that you don't have the drive or desire to do. Does that make sense? So I have a lot of thoughts, and a lot of these thoughts have kept me from creating, and these thoughts have kept me from remembering the goal of creativity. And the goal is not to be perfect. The goal is not to have everything aligned. The goal is to simply share where I am in a particular moment with the hope that where I am may help someone else be where they are, or maybe even go somewhere they want to go. That's it. It's that simple.